Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fantasy and Other Stuff podcast. I hope you're doing well. I want to start today's episode by thanking my newest patron, Juan Padilla. Juan, more like one, because you just won my heart. I didn't plan that joke beforehand, if you can believe that. That just came to me right now, and I'm gonna leave it in. That was funny. I'm so funny sometimes. I crack myself up. It's fine. It's fine. But thank you so much for your support. I really can't overstate how much everyone's support means to me. Literally every comment that I get, that anybody that's like interacting with me, just makes my day so much better. So I really appreciate you guys, and especially people who sign up for the Patreon. You guys are the GOATs. The goats of the goats, the greatest of all time, times 5. That's you guys. So welcome to the GigaChad Club, Juan. Thank you so much, man. But anyway, let's hop into what I've been reading this week, and it's gonna be kind of similar to last week because I've really just been reading one book throughout this entire week, and it's Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. I finished it just yesterday. And oh boy, man, it's so good, dude. It's such a good book. I'm gonna refrain from like doing any spoilers. I don't want to really bring up anything specific about the book. But just in case you're one of the people that doesn't know a whole lot about this book, I would recommend first off reading the First Law trilogy before you read this. You can start here. You can start by reading Best Served Cold, and I don't think that you'll be missing like a lot. I don't think that you'll be missing out on any important details that like really, change the narrative at all. But if you read the First Law trilogy first, there's a lot of added depth to the world that you'll catch on to, and a lot of things that have more meaning if you understand beforehand what they are, So that's what my official stance on where you should start if you want to read Best Served Cold, because I know there's people who are just now finding out about that book because it got announced to be a movie. Definitely, I think you should read the first trilogy beforehand if you feel like it. There's nothing wrong with starting with that book, but that's my recommendation there. And again, I don't want to say anything specific about this book, but I will say I gave it a perfect 10 out of 10. It's maybe more like a 9.5 out of 10. I did have like some slight problems at some points, but like not really. Like they were just things that I was nitpicking, and like every single book I ever read is gonna have a nitpick. So I didn't really include those. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. So I really loved it. If you can't tell from the name, it's a revenge story, and I think that it does that so well while also exploring all these other themes that kind of surround the concept of revenge, and how it shows all of those through different characters and their journeys is immaculate. It's so good. Joe Abercrombie, with every single new book that I read by him, is quickly becoming one of my favorite authors of all time. The way that he writes is just, it just works so well. He has such a distinct voice, and not just for each character, because he does change the way that he writes things based off of whose perspective you're in, but also just the way he describes things, the way that he brings things to life through his words is so to the point, while also being poetic at the same time, and like painting a very clear picture. He's got very visceral prose, like he's really straight to the point without really having any fluff around the edges, but somehow it always paints such a clear picture, and I haven't encountered that before. I think the man is unrivaled in the way that he writes stuff. I mean, based off of everything I've read, I'm sure that I might change my opinion on that in the future, but I've come to realize that I like this style of writing the most. They aren't my favorite stories ever told. I definitely think I've read much better fantasy stories, but in terms of the way that he writes the story that he's telling, it's just unrivaled. It's unbelievable what he pulls off. So I can't say that like these are my favorite books of all time, but the way that he's set, like writing the story, is probably my favorite way that I've ever seen a story told. So I love it, man. I love it. I love it so much, and I still have 4 or 5 books left in the First Law universe, and I'm probably just gonna tear through them. I'm taking a break between each of the books. I'm gonna read other stuff, but I have a feeling I'm really only ever gonna do like 1 or 2 books between the First Law books, because I can't stay away. I immediately wanted to go pick up the next one when I finished Best Served Cold, and I didn't do it. I'm making myself take a step back. I'm making myself read other stuff, but I wanted to. I wanted to go just pick up the next one, and I don't feel like that's gonna go away the further I get into this series. So, oh my god, if you haven't read Joe Abercrombie yet, do it. Freaking do it, man. It's so good. You're not gonna regret it. I would suggest, because I actually just had this conversation with someone else that I know that started the First Law trilogy. The first book is not representative of the whole series. I mean, it is, but like, not really. It feels almost like a prologue to me because it's all just setting up the world and setting up the characters and the character arcs and kind of settling you into the way that Joe Abercrombie tells a story. And in retrospect, it's like a 10 out of 10 book, but when you first read it, it's not going to give you all the flavors that his series has. So I definitely recommend, if you read First Law, read the first book and then just read the second one like right away, because that will give you a better taste of what the story is actually going to be. And there's not very much action in the first book. It's a lot of just people talking and stuff, and so I can see people being turned off from it because of that. But it's a very action-packed series. Like, I can tell you right now that there is a lot of action. It's just not in the first book. So that's just in case anybody's thinking about it. I want to get all this out there because I won't be talking about it for a few weeks, because I'm going to read other stuff, like I said. But anyway, I am over the moon about how fucking good that book was, dude. Okay, I'm gonna stop here because I'll end up talking about spoilers if I don't stop myself. So just know, I seriously, I think he's my new favorite, not my new favorite author of all time, but maybe writer. Like, I don't know, you know the distinction there, like author, like it's not my favorite stories, but man, the way he writes, it's my favorite. It's just, it's so good. It's so good. Anyway, that's what I was reading this whole past week, and I wanted to read other stuff, but every time I thought about picking something else up, I couldn't do it. I just kept wanting to go back to that book, so I only read that this past week, but just today I started reading Skysworn, which is book 4 in the Cradle series, which I believe I talked about Cradle a little bit on the last podcast episode, but it's a very addictive series, and I picked up book 5, and I'm already like 20% of the way through it this morning. The books are really short. This one's only like 270 pages, which is like a bite. It's like, that's like a little nibble. That's a snack. That's nothing. 270 pages, I'll probably be done like in a couple days at most, which is part of the reason I like that series, because I usually read like doorstop fantasy, and when you read one of those, I don't really want to follow up like a doorstopper, 1,000-page book with another 1,000-page book. I need like a palate cleanser, and these Cradle books are working really well for that. I'm really like fully into the series, and they're just so easy to read, and they give me such a good little break from all like a lot of heavy stuff, which First Law is very heavy. There's very dark themes in there, so it's doing a really good job at splitting that up for me. But I'm also debating, I think this week I'm going to start reading Terry Pratchett finally, which I've been meaning to do for a long time. I did read one Terry Pratchett book, I believe last year. I read Going Postal, which I'm reading Discworld. That's his, huge fantasy series. I read Going Postal, and I regret reading it when I did, because at that point I hadn't read as widely into fantasy, and I don't think I appreciated some of the stuff that he was doing as much as I would now. And I don't think I understood what he was doing. I don't feel like I understood what he was going for as much. And now that I've learned more about what Discworld is as a series, I feel better about going in and just like picking up something. So I think I'm going to start Guards, which if you don't know much about Discworld, Discworld is split up. Technically you could read it chronologically, but he has like sub-stories that kind of form this larger narrative, and you can read the sub-stories and you can just read those on their own. So I believe the one that I would be starting if I read Guards is The City Watch. I believe there's like 6 books. They're all pretty short, just like the Cradle books. They're all pretty short. And I believe that, so there's like the City Watch, and then there's one that follows Death. There's one that follows like a group of witches and stuff. And they all are their own self-contained stories that you can read without reading the rest of Discworld, because there's like 40 books in Discworld. So like, I feel like telling someone to read that series is a lot harder than telling them to read like 6 books that just happen to be in the Discworld universe, you know? So I think I'm going to pick that up this week. And I'm going to have lots of time to read this week because I'm going on a trip to Colorado and I'll be in the car for a long time and I'll just be reading. So I'm probably going to get a lot done. I might read like a few books this week. So I'll probably have a lot to talk about next week. But that's what I plan on reading, just to kind of give myself, like I said, like a buffer. Once I finish these, I'm going to be honest, I think I don't think I can stay away. I think I'm just going to pick up the next Joe Abercrombie. But I'm not going to commit to that yet because I really want to read so I read The Name of the Wind, I think like 3 weeks ago I read it, and I had finished it. And I have the second book, The Wise Man's Fear, and I'm debating picking that up and reading that, but then I'll be on the wait train for everyone else, waiting for Patrick Rothfuss to write book 3. So I'm not exactly in a rush to get to that. And also Wheel of Time, I really want to get back to it. I started, so I think I also talked about this in the last episode, but I started Lord of Chaos, which is book 6 in the Wheel of Time, and I just can't do it right now, man. I don't know, I'm debating picking it back up because I know that I'm like almost through the part of the book that is probably going to be the most laborious to read, which is usually like the first couple hundred pages in a Wheel of Time book, especially the further along that I've gotten, because Robert Jordan loves recapping information that we already know, and I get why, I understand it, I understand why he does it. Because, these books came out years apart from each other, and obviously readers might not remember everything, and they might not want to read every one of the books before they get back into it. But I'm not one of those people. I just read them. I remember everything. So I just, reading all the recap stuff for like 250 pages drives me crazy. And also just the pacing in the Wheel of Time is not fantastic, if you ask me. And the way he writes is almost the total opposite end of the spectrum from Joe Abercrombie. He over-describes everything, and my taste has definitely moved away from that, so I find it a little bit irritating sometimes. But that's not. I'm gonna finish that series. I'm gonna do it. I'm 6 books in. I'm gonna do it. Okay, okay. I already talked about this last week, I'm pretty sure, so I'm gonna stop here. But I'm not picking it up yet. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna get back to that eventually. So in non-book news, because there's a couple other things that I've been doing this week that are fantasy related and they're not books. For one, I don't think I've talked about this. I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom, the new Zelda game, so much, and dude, I'm starting to lose my mind because I love this. This game is like a 10 out of 10 for me. This is like one of the best games I've ever played in my life. I think I've put like 70 hours into this game in the past month, which for me is a lot. I don't play a lot of single player video games. So for me, that's a lot of time that I've spent playing that game. I don't even think I'm 50% of the way through. And the reason I'm losing my mind is that every time I tell myself that I'm going to go progress, that I'm going to move forward, and I'm like, I'm going to go move the story forward. I'm going to go explore this area that I've never been to because there's like this depth. It's like basically like going into the mines, And so I'm like, I'm going to go do that stuff. And then I turn around and I see like a really cool thing in the distance and I go chase after that. And then next thing I know, it's been 3 hours and I haven't moved, more than like 2 inches on the map. I've just been exploring this one area for forever and I can't stop myself. It's like I have a compulsion. Like I have to go do the next thing and it's driving me insane, man. Like I really want to keep going in this game. I really want to beat it. I want to finish the story because I'm like invested and I want to make tangible progress. But then every time I get back on the game, I'm like, I've been in this one spot for a week and I'm still exploring and doesn't matter because it's a great game. But man, there's the part of me that is like super, capitalist minded, I guess, that wants to be like super productive, feels like I'm going insane because it feels like I'm making no progress, even though I know I am, but it would be nice to see some physical representation of that, like, which is why I always get a dopamine rush when I, like, unlock a new part of the map in that game. But yeah, I think it's great. Breath of the Wild is already like one of my favorite games of all time, and this to me just takes that formula and makes it even better. It's like 3 times more content, 3 times more creativity, and just it's awesome. It's awesome. I know you don't need me to tell you that. You're not here to hear me talk about video games, but I'm just saying. It's really good. It's really good, even though my brain is starting to hurt every time that I open it and see how little progress I've made. Also, just a couple days ago, I went and saw the new Pixar movie, and this is fantasy related because it's, a fantastical movie, and I love Pixar. I watch pretty much everything they put out, even though I'm a, full grown man at this point. It doesn't matter. The stories are still effective, and also their animation is always beautiful, and I always get somewhat emotional when I watch those movies. So I went and I was at the theater. I went alone. I go to the movies alone quite often. And I went there. I kind of regret the time I went because it was like 4:30 on a Saturday. So I'm so used to going to movies and like being alone because I'll usually go later at night. I was not alone. There were many, many children in that theater, and they were very loud. But this is. This is the part I want to talk about. I'll get to the movie eventually, but in the row, directly in front of me, these 3 high school girls sat, like, literally, they were, like, right in front of me, okay? That's an important detail, all right? And then for some reason, they, like, split up their group, even though it wasn't, like, a packed theater. Like, there was definitely space for all of them to fit in the same row. And 2 of their friends went and sat like 3 rows down from them. And I shit you not, like 3 different times, they just started talking to each other. Like across the rows, like in full voices. Hello? That is so rude. I have never encountered that in my life. Just like full on talking to each other in a theater with like 20, 30 other people in it. What the hell was that? That's so rude. And that's just the beginning. I'm still heated about this, dude. That's just the beginning of what they did, all right? At one point, they all got on their phones, and they didn't even turn the brightness down. They just left it at normal bright. It's already rude to get on your phone if someone's, like, right behind you, Like, I understand if, like, you check your phone, and, like, you're, like, on the end of the row, and there's no one near you, and you have your brightness down. Like, you're not taking the experience away from anyone. But that was right behind them. There's no way they didn't know I was there. Anyway, that irritated me. This is when it gets really bad. At one point, they started watching TikToks. They started watching TikTok in the middle of the... Oh my god, dude. I've never, ever encountered someone just so blatantly, just so rude. It's just so, so unaware of the world around them. And that's not even it. This is the worst part, if you ask me. At one point, one of them got a FaceTime call, and she just answered it. She just answered, and I'm in the frame, like I could see myself. So not only are you on your phone in the movie theater, you're now showing a complete stranger to whoever else is on the phone, and they did like a be real, like they took out their phone and like took a selfie together, and I was like, what is happening? And like at one point, I literally just like one of them looked back at me, and I just stared at her. I just looked at her. I was just like. And I just like raised my eyebrows, like, and I'm not a confrontational person, so like I didn't say anything. I probably should have stood up for myself and been like, hey, shut the fuck up, but I didn't do it because I'm a giant baby, and I hate confronting people with stuff. But dude, oh my god, I got so mad. I'm still mad about it right now. I'm still mad. I can't believe what happened to theater etiquette. What happened? I just know that they probably are the kind of girls that get in trouble all the time at high school. I think they were high school students. That's what I assume. I can't imagine someone over the age of 18 doing that, but I don't know, man. It irritated me, and I wanted to share that story because it drove me crazy, man. It drove me insane. And the movie, however, was fine. It was good. It wasn't, like, amazing or anything, but there were some good moments in there. I mean, it was, like, really basic. I think that's probably why it's bombing. It's doing really bad at the box office. but it's like a super basic story, and they don't even, like, the concept's not even that unique. It's just fire girl and water guy. It's just like the cool math game, coolmathgames.com game, whatever it is. It's not like super unique, and it's like, at this day and age, you kind of need to have a draw to get people to go to the movie theater. There needs to be a reason that they want to see this movie specifically in a theater. And this movie just doesn't have anything like that. I mean, the visuals are cool, but, like, I think parents taking their kids would rather just stay at home and, like, throw on Netflix or something, instead of spending all the money dragging their kids out, I can see why it's bombing. It's a good movie. It doesn't deserve to bomb, but it feels like they probably didn't take into consideration the fact that, there's not like a huge draw. It's not even like this is a movie that has some kind of insane concept that's gonna like draw people in. And the trailer was just like fine. It wasn't great. So I'm sad that movie's bombing, because Pixar is, they make good movies, and I want them to continue making good movies, but yeah, I can understand why that's happening. But also, in movie news, I just watched this movie last night. So, not Elemental. This is a different movie I'm talking about now. I went and hung out with some friends yesterday. And a couple weeks ago, I went to see the new Transformers movie with my parents, because Transformers was like a big deal in my childhood. I've seen the first movie probably like 30 times, because it was like one of those car movies. Like, we had the DVD and we would watch it on those like things that come down in the car. And I just rewatched that movie over and over and over, because I was like 8 when it came out. I was like the perfect age for it. So we went and saw the new one, because it's like me and my family. We just like, Transformers is like part of our family, kind of, I guess. That's a weird way of putting it, but you know what I mean. Which, the new Transformers was good. I would say it's probably the best one since the original movie, but they've all been pretty bad since then. But I hadn't seen one of them. I didn't go see The Last Knight. It's the Transformers The Last Knight. If you haven't heard about this movie, I don't know if you remember the trailers or anything, but it's got dinosaur Transformers and Transformers with swords from Arthurian times. I I don't really know what the plot of that movie was. I watched it last night. I can't really tell you anything specific about that movie, except for the most ridiculous moment I've seen in my entire life, which was when Mark Wahlberg pulled out a sword and stopped the punch of a giant a regular human man, stopped the punch of a giant alien robot with a sword. Hello? What? Like, my suspension of disbelief only goes so far, okay? I know that's a ridiculous thing to complain about in a Transformers movie, but, like, they didn't even give it some kind of, like, supernatural explanation, like, oh, this sword gives you super strength. It's just a guy. It's just a normal guy. What? How? That's not possible. He would have gotten his shit rocked so hard, bro. No way. No fucking way, man. But anyway, really what I wanted to talk about with this movie was that there was a good movie hidden in there somewhere. It's a terrible movie. Okay, it's awful. There's some cool fight sequences, I guess, but it's 2 hours and 34 minutes. 2 hours and 34 minutes of nothing. Nothing. There's nothing important that happens until like the last 30 minutes. It's all bullshit. It's all unimportant. It's so bad, dude. It's such a bad movie. But hidden in there is a much more interesting movie about the Transformers fighting alongside King Arthur. They kept showing these flashbacks of the Transformers literally forming into a fucking dragon to fight alongside King Arthur. And then they kept cutting back to the present where nothing interesting was happening. You know what would have been a good movie? Watching the Transformers fight alongside King Arthur! Why didn't you make that movie? That would have been so much better. I'm still salty about that. There was a couple sequences where I was like, ooh, really interesting stuff. Oh, now we're back with Mark Wahlberg doing fuck diddly nothing. God damn it. I'm so mad that I watched that movie, dude. But it was cool seeing the Transformers turn into a fucking dragon. Why wasn't there more of that in the movie? God. I shouldn't even be complaining about this. This movie came out like 6 years ago. I can't believe I hadn't seen it till last night. It's ridiculous. It is utterly ridiculous. Although I will say, it's probably a good movie to watch if you just get like shit faced, with some friends and you just laugh at it the whole time, which is kind of what I did yesterday. But it was still just I don't think I was shit faced enough. I think that's what my problem was. Definitely not a movie that you just want to sit down and like really lock in and just like turn the lights down low and just watch it alone. It would be a not great viewing experience if you did it that way. So just a forewarning: if you ever plan on watching that movie, and I don't know why you would be, but if you are, don't do it alone. Watch that movie with friends and just like poke fun at it, because that's the only enjoyment that I got out of that movie. It's really bad. It's not good. It's just not good. It's a really, really just poorly made, overly drawn out movie with very little to offer. I understand why they just did like a hard reset after that, because yeah, I think it bombed, but also, holy fuck, it was just atrocious. It was an abomination. But yeah, that's been my past week of fantasy enjoyment. On another side note, I haven't read a manga in a while. When I finished Berserk, that was like the last time I really picked one up. I really want to start Vinland Saga. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick up Vinland Saga, and I'm just going to start it. I have the first 2 volumes up there. I wanted to just watch season 2 of the anime. I watched like the first 2 episodes of season 2 of the anime, and I loved it. The thing is, I love it so much that like I stopped because I couldn't handle just watching it weekly. So I think I'm gonna start over from the beginning and just read the manga all the way through. I think I'll for one, it'll go a lot faster, and also I don't want to like switch mediums up like halfway through. I want to start that way and end that way, and it's short enough that like it's not going to take me like super long to get back to where I was in the story. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do that this week. I'm going to pick up Vinland Saga and start it. And I'll probably be done with that pretty fast, because when I really get into a manga series, I just kind of fly through it. I'll knock it out in like a week, probably. Maybe like 2 weeks. It won't take me long. So I expect that soon. I'll probably be talking about Vinland Saga. And then I think after that, I haven't fully decided, but I think I'm going to pick up Vagabond. I really want to get through like the big 3 of Seinen. I think that's the move. I think I'm going to pick up Vagabond. I might wait. I don't know for sure, but I think that's the next like big one that I'm going to do is Vagabond after Vinland Saga. So just in case, for anybody who's wondering about manga, also I made no progress in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure this week. I didn't get to it. I've been debating starting over. I feel a little bad about this because I'm kind of neck deep into part 3 of JoJo's right now, but I really want to start over Avatar: The Last Airbender. I haven't watched that in like 10 years, and seeing the live action stuff, which I'm not that excited for, the creators literally backed away from it. Netflix is totally on their own making that, so it's probably really bad. But seeing it made me want to go revisit the story in its original form, in animated form. So I might do that. I might drop JoJo's for a little bit and just go revisit that story, because it holds such a special place in my heart, and I want to re-experience it and see how much it holds up, which people tell me that it holds up really well. So I'll have to be the judge of that, but we'll see. Maybe that'll happen, maybe that won't. But I'll let you guys know next week in next week's reading update, because I think I'm out of stuff to talk about right now. So anyway, until then, I hope you guys are happy and healthy. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.